Good morning and welcome to Public Pulse. Now, joining me this morning from the University of Wyoming is the Director of Institutional Communications, Mr. Chad Baldwin. Good morning, Chad.
Morning, Floyd.
How is your holiday season going so far?
It's been great. Yeah, it's nice to have a little break.
Well, it always is, isn't it? I mean, this is the time of year that we even take one of our vacations and we head back east to Minnesota.
All right.
Now, when do students return to the classroom?
Not till later this month. I think it's right around maybe the 17th or so.
Around the 17th? So everyone currently trying to get classes in. Is there some activity over there at the administration's building?
Well, actually, the whole university is off this week, with the exception of, the essential folks making sure there's no frozen pipes and that sort of thing. But it's pretty quiet this week, and people will be back next Tuesday for the administration and staff members and that sort of thing. Then students coming back later in the month.
What does the weather look down there? You guys got a lot of snow, or is it all blown away?
Now, there's still some snow here. It was so darn cold last week, and then it warmed up super warm the past couple days, but now it feels a little bit more like what we usually have in December. And so, pretty nice. Looks like it'll be pretty good ice fishing weather today.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You planning on heading out yourself?
I think I'm going to do that, yeah.
Well, best of luck to you. Now, during the pandemic, we all learned a very valuable lesson on the importance of nurses in the healthcare system. And it seemed like no matter how many we had, it was just not enough. They endured long hours, some even, pulling 18-hour days in some cases. Great folks, were donating food to our hospital up here, as these nurses and the other medical staff just didn't even have time to grab anything to eat. Chad, can you tell us how that resulted in a record number of nursing school graduates this past semester?
Yeah, so this particular area of nursing it's our master's degree in nursing. And this is for nurses who are in leadership roles in whatever clinical situation they're in. And, apparently in the nursing field, these nurse educators or nurse leaders who have master's degrees are playing an ever bigger role to make sure our system continues to function like it needs to. And so our program is an online program that nurses who are on the job can take to advance their careers. And we had 25 of them graduate this month, which is a record for our program. And it's all across the state, including one right in Sheridan there, Cassandra Mullins. I'm not sure if she works at the hospital or what exactly her setting is, but she's one of them. And anyway, this is fills a really important role in our healthcare system here in Wyoming.
Absolutely. Do you think we're about to see an increase throughout the nation in nurse educators? I mean, in your experience at seeing this happen, do you think that this is a trend that will continue, or do you think this is in response to a need that these nurses saw themselves?
Floyd, I just don't have the expertise to really answer your question. But I do know that the people who run our online master's program are really optimistic that there's going to be high demand and that we'll be able to fill it. And, the 25 new graduates in this program, 20 of them are right here in Wyoming.
Oh, that's amazing.
Filling important roles in their communities and healthcare. That includes like the Life Flight out of Casper, and then various hospitals and clinical settings.
I had a friend who worked for them for quite some time. She was busy all the time. The demand for this profession is so high. Nurses, and especially nurse educators, I could only imagine what other states are facing who have a greater population, because I know that we went through a bit of a tough time there during COVID, and the offerings that were coming their way from this traveling nurse field, in some cases, were just too good to pass up.
Yeah, I think we continue. I think I've heard of a nursing shortage most of my lifetime, and so schools like ours are doing the best we can to produce the graduates to help address that need. One of the things we find in Wyoming that's a bit of a challenge is you have to have clinical settings, to do as part of your education. We're a little bit limited in the number of clinical settings that we have, so we can't really grow our bachelor's degree nursing program that much. But this master's program for nursing leaders is the one that seems to be really taking off. And since it's online, and since the people can stay right on the job that they're at, I think there's some pretty good growth potential here.
And I'll tell you, the dedication that this shows is amazing. Being a busy nurse on the job and then going home and participating in a master's level online class. I can only imagine the amount of work and hours that these ladies and gentlemen have put into this program. Congratulations to all of them. It is a great thing to see this number because, I think that this generation of nurses who have been in the field for the past 3 years can offer an experience that every nursing student or, new nurse coming into the field can learn from. Having gone through this pandemic, boots on the ground, being out there in the field and experiencing this is something that I think we should all be learning from. And I can only imagine the knowledge that these ladies and gentlemen have as they go forward to teach a new batch of nurses as they join us. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think that we're still probably assessing to some degree the impact of the pandemic has had on multiple systems, and the healthcare is, of course, the biggest one, probably the most direct impact. And there's been sort of from what I can tell, the pandemic really kind of exposed areas of need, things that need to be shorn up, and I think. That's what this master's program is. That's one of the things it's able to do.
Now, I imagine the requirements are pretty rigid. It is a demanding and very rewarding career. But those long hours that they've put in. Congratulations to all of you. Now, another topic: work is progressing on a solar-powered home. This is happening in the foothills of Wyoming's Wind River Mountains, and it represents the entry by a team of University of Wyoming students in an international competition to design zero-energy buildings. Chad, can you tell me a little bit about the Solar Decathlon Build Challenge?
Sure. So it's a program that's sponsored by the United States Department of Energy, and universities across the country have student teams that have entered designs for zero-energy homes. And then, it's a competitive deal. They're trying to win prizes and recognition. And this team for the University of Wyoming from our College of Engineering and Physical Sciences is one of the 16 finalist teams from across the country. And they were each awarded $50,000 to build and exhibit their houses. And so they're working with a contractor from Lander. This is near Red Canyon, which is south of Lander. And the house looks like to me it's pretty much enclosed now. They're doing the interior work. And this spring then, our student team will be able to show off this zero-energy home that's been built in the foothills of the Wind Rivers, which pretty darn special place, just like the foothills there you're in of the Bighorns. So a very exciting project, and I think they're pretty psyched to be able to see where they shake out in the 16 finalists, see if they can be the winner.
I think that would be absolutely amazing. And Wyoming being an energy state, I think, with all the technological advances that we've really been advancing down there at the university and the experiments that have been going on, I think it would be great if they came out on top on this one. And when we say zero energy, this is zero energy from an outside source, correct? Like it's not going to be hooked up onto a grid?
So what it's going to have super insulated, airtight envelope, and then advanced heating systems, including a heat pump and radiant floors, a large array of solar panels, and that'll ensure that the home will produce more energy than it consumes. Now, whether or not it will be off the grid or not, Lloyd, I'm not sure. A lot of folks with solar systems are hooked up to the grid and then are able to actually put energy into the grid, and I think they get compensated for it. So it could be that's what we're talking about here as well. But zero energy it means it's going to produce more energy than it consumes.
It's absolutely.
on an annual basis. I mean, maybe at different times, but that's on an annual basis.
That's amazing. Being able to actually throw power onto the grid with solar power, I think, is great. Now, the one thing that I was kind of curious of is all of this pre-existing technology, or are students using some experimental sources of clean energy?
My understanding, Floyd, is that this is maybe the technologies themselves already exist, but it just comes down to how you design all of it and how you put it all together. And I think that's what so it's the latest technologies they're using, but this is more about design than about, for instance, improving the solar panel efficiency or something like that.
Yeah.
We have people at the university doing that sort of work, but this particular competition is about design.
Designing a home that utilizes existing technology more efficiently. I can see that happening because, you could have the best parts in the world, but if you don't know how to put it together, the car is not going to run.
That's right. Yeah. And this is, by the way, it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home. And once it's all done and the competition's over, I believe it's going to be put up for sale.
Oh, really?
On a 6-acre lot. It's going to be on a 6-acre lot, and it's it's built in a conventional sort of. I'm trying to think here what the word is. It's a typical Wyoming home. It's not anything as far as how it looks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The systems are innovative, but it's nothing that you're going to drive by and say, "Oh, that's a weird looking place."
So it looks just like a regular house.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are really drawn to homes like that. And to get inside of a typical looking home and then to find out how advanced it is in its clean energy usage, I think that would be pretty neat as well. It's an example to every other common home out there that this can be done.
Yep.
All right, when we come back, we're going to continue with the University of Wyoming. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
First Federal Bank and Trust is excited to announce the First Federal Community Commitment Program.
Each week for 52 weeks starting in January, First Federal will select a Sheridan County nonprofit who will receive $1,000 in cash, plus Sheridan Media will match that with a marketing budget.
You can find an entry form at any First Federal Bank location or online at efirstfederal.bank. If you've received a donation from First Federal in the last 3 years, you're automatically entered into the drawing.
Community Commitment, presented by
First Federal Bank and Trust
and Sheridan Media.
Member FDIC.
Welcome in 2023 with a bang with fireworks from Whiz Bang Fireworks. Whiz Bang has a great selection of fireworks in all varieties, so start the new year off with a fireworks celebration. Whiz Bang Fireworks will be open on North Main Street behind Pizza Hut starting tomorrow, Thursday, December 29th through Saturday, December 31st from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Fireworks can be shot December 31st and January 1st only. Use caution and follow rules. Celebrate 2023 with fireworks from Whiz Bang Fireworks on North Main Street behind Pizza Hut.
Face it, you don't want to do your own plumbing and heating work or repair. You need a professional, and that is exactly what you will get if you work with Rapp Plumbing and Heating. Being fully licensed, bonded, and insured, you can rest assured that they will take care of your repairs and maintenance in the very best way possible. Call Rapp Plumbing and Heating at 429-1196 and rest easy knowing it'll be done right. This is Dan Rapp with Rapp Plumbing and Heating. And as we like to say, if you find a leak, let me take a peek.
Help your favorite photo of holiday decorations win big. It's time to vote in the Get Lit for the Holidays photo contest presented by MDU. Just go to the contest page at SheridanMedia.com. Click on the banner, scroll through the photos, and vote for your favorite. The winning photo by most votes will take home a $200 gift certificate to Sheridan Liquor, $200 in chamber bucks from MDU, and $200 in chamber bucks from State Farm Insurance and Gardner. Vote every day on the contest page at SheridanMedia.com and watch for the winner announcement on Friday.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at First Federal Bank and Trust. I'm Floyd Whiting. With me this morning from the University of Wyoming is the Director of Institutional Communications, Chad Baldwin. We've discussed the ever-increasing demand for nurses in the nation and the overwhelming success of those students in the nursing program down at UW. We've also talked about the UW Solar Decathlon House. Now, this is near Lander, and it offers an amazing opportunity for our students to participate in a nationwide challenge and flex their clean energy know-how. Over the past year, Chad and I have talked about many amazing advances in the sciences and technology that are helping to advance the goals of the entire country, including NASA, and it's all happening right down there at UW. And Chad, according to a recent survey, Wyoming residents are quite pleased with the university and the educational opportunities that our four-year institution offers. Can you tell us some details about that recent survey?
Sure, Floyd. But this is a survey we do every other year, and we kind of feel like it's important to do this to, just make sure we're get a sense for what the people want to think about how we're doing. And so this was done at the end of October, early November, and we feel like it's important to kind of report out to, instead of just using this internally, people ought to be able to see the results. So we've done that. We did a press release, and I'd say that the highlights are in the area of what people think about UW as a place where where a quality educational experience can be had, and so we asked the question: how well do you think UW appeals to Wyoming students and their families as a desirable place to attend college? And the results came back that 63% said quite well, and 17% said extremely well, and that's 80% combined. So that's a pretty strong indication, and those are really good numbers in terms of what people perceive as UW being a good place for people to come to school. And we had 9% that said not too well, and just 2% said not well at all. So we're not universally viewed that way, but 80%, 8 out of 10 people saying extremely well or quite well is a really good number.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You add to that, then we asked the question: rate UW's performance as providing an excellent undergraduate education, and we had 44% say good and 19% say excellent. So that's 63% combined, and that's pretty strong too. I mean, we had 13% said fair and 3% said poor, but again, you're up there, a really strong majority saying that we provide an excellent undergraduate education. So we feel real good about those numbers.
And I think it really, those results are quite telling of what the university is doing and the direction that it is going. How will leadership at the university use this survey?
Well, I think one of the things we did find, and because there's a number of other questions too, where the numbers weren't as high, were in the area of engaging with the community. So we asked whether UW has a strong level of engagement with your community, and we were just, excellent or good only reached about 50%, just under 50%. So, 26% said fair, 11% poor. Those are numbers that seem to indicate, we need maybe to do a little bit more outreach, or at least shine more attention on the outreach that we do. So that's an area where this isn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're going to look at these numbers and I think take a look at what can we do a little bit better, maybe in the area of communication and also maybe in the area of programming, to be able to touch more of our people around the state directly.
When the board or leadership sits down to decide those kinds of changes, do we look at like a 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year extended plan?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were just putting the finishing touches on a strategic plan that's going to take us for the next 5 years. So absolutely, there's been a lot of planning been done, a lot of discussions on and off campus to put this strategic plan together, and so it's a real strong roadmap to address some of the things I just discussed that were mentioned here in the survey that we did,
such as that outreach, which I can imagine, if I working down at the university, if I was down there, I think if I had to improve on an area, that would be the area that I think I would enjoy improving on the most. Just being able to go out and talk about what is going on down there at the university, maybe offer some volunteer opportunities or reaching out to the community, maybe those in need or something like that.
Absolutely. Floyd, and we need to remember too, we're just coming off a pandemic period when we were all pretty isolated. I mean, there was outreach that was done, but it was pretty much mostly virtual from campus, and getting back out in person, I think has helped. Probably will help us with our results when we do this survey in a couple of years, assuming we don't get another darn pandemic coming our way. Yeah. So that's the sort of thing you have to kind of look at the circumstances as well. But we asked things about what do people think. Are we doing a good job of keeping our tuition as low as possible? And we had 15% say excellent, 37% said good, so that's 52% combined. That's over half. Only 25% said fair or poor in that area. Are we maintaining a safe campus for students? 60% said either excellent or good in that area. So it's and then we asked about our athletics teams. Are we doing a good job of having competitive athletics teams? And 59% said we're doing an excellent or good job of that as well. So always area for improvement. There's always things we can do better. And this survey kind of helps us identify to prioritize a little.
To know where to put the resources and the focus within the next 5 years, I think surveys like this are absolutely vital, especially for an entity like the university. I mean, you are our university, and I think being able to offer a lower tuition to state residents is something that has always kind of been around, at least to my memory. Yep.
Well, it's a part of it's written into the state's constitution about keeping our tuition as nearly free as possible. One thing I want to point out, Floyd, is that this survey, we have a unit here on campus called the Wyoming Survey and Analysis Center, and they're actually self-funded. I mean, they're a professional polling operation that does work for other, like say the Game and Fish Department or for WYDOT or even private companies. So you pay them, and these are professional pollsters who know what they're doing. And so they had, down to that this has a margin of error of like 4.3 percentage points. and they did a rent, and they used both landline and cell numbers, and they made sure they had enough folks. This is 524 people across Wyoming, so that we have a high degree of confidence that these are accurate numbers. So anyway, the Survey Analysis Center is an interesting operation here at UW. I'm not sure a lot of people know about it, but they do professional polling as that's their job. And we're not competing with any other private companies in Wyoming. There just aren't any. We're a small enough state where we just don't have a lot of professional polling companies here.
And I've used the results from their polling, quite a few in my news stories.
Yeah, they did. The one I know this past year, they always do political polling.
Yeah.
And they're the one that did the poll right before the primary election that showed gave some reason to think that Harriet Hageman was going to beat Liz Cheney by a wide margin, and that's in fact what happened. Of course, we know. So they do all kinds of real interesting polling, and so we used this unit of UW to do this because that's what they do for a job.
And they know that the results that they get are pretty dang accurate. Well, Chad, thank you so much for talking with us today. I want to wish you a happy new year, my friend.
Same to you, Floyd, and we sure appreciate the opportunity to talk.
When we come back, we're going to talk with Whitney Benefits. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
First Federal Bank and Trust is committed to our community.
Beginning in January, we'll be donating $1,000 cash each week for 52 weeks to a qualified Sheridan County nonprofit organization, and Sheridan Media will match that with a marketing budget.
First Federal is one of 2 mutual banks in Wyoming, which means they don't pay stockholders. They reinvest your funds right back into the place we call home. Visit efirstfederal.bank for details. Community commitment, presented by
First Federal Bank and Trust
and Sheridan Media.
Member FDIC.
When the unexpected happens, you may wonder what's next. Champion Funeral Home can help you through this phase of life. They provide support and personal services while helping you create a meaningful tribute to your loved one. Champion Funeral Home has been locally owned and operated since 1911, providing compassion and care to Sheridan and Johnson County. Visit Champion Funeral Home at championfh.com or call 674-6329.
You grunt and groan every time you stand, bend, or reach. Ow. Aching bones and aching joints, they're not just painful, they're noisy. But seriously, for some, aching joints are debilitating. The specialists at Sheridan Ortho work tirelessly to end your aches and pains. From advanced hand and upper extremity surgery to computer-navigated spine surgery to complex sports medicine like hip arthroscopy, you're in good hands. Sheridan Orthopedics, serving Sheridan and the surrounding areas for over 50 years. Visit SheridanOrtho.com. Same-day appointments may be available.
This Christmas message from Mandy Koltiska at Century 21 BHJ. Live long and foster. You may not be able to buy love, but you sure can rescue it. And you can't change an animal's past, but you can rewrite their future. Rescue a pet today, and they'll rescue you right back. If your heart doesn't have paw prints on it, you need to get to the dog and cat shelter today.
Slick roads are here. Let's get some new tires on your vehicle. Hi, this is Chris Hayden with Hammer Chevrolet. With the recent weather, you probably figured out your vehicle might need some new tires. Bring it down and let us take a look. We carry all the brand names and tires. If you provide us with a better price at the time of purchase, we'll match it. Find a better price within 30 days of the purchase, we'll refund the difference. Bring your vehicle in and let's get you safely down the road. You can't beat our tire price match guarantee from Hammer Chevrolet, 107 East Alger. Online at hammerchevy.com.
Final days to save big this holiday season. At Legacy Diamond & Gems, they have a wide selection of beautiful jewelry, all on sale up to 50% off. Their total store renovation in 2023 motivates them to sell at discounts like never before. Shop now while selection is at its best and where quality and value are always in style. Hurry in for the final days of this sale and save up to 50% off in-stock items. Legacy Diamond & Gems, 11 North Main Street in downtown Sheridan.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at First Federal Bank and Trust. I'm Floyd Whiting. Established in 2003, the Whitney Commons is an interactive park. It's located in the center of Sheridan. And the Commons, between the Sheridan County Fulmer Public Library and the Hub on Smith, while also being very close proximity to the Sheridan County YMCA. Features within the park include the pavilion, a playground designed for fun and safety, large grass-covered areas, popular water spray grounds. Kids take advantage of this every year. An amphitheater, a plaza area, vintage lighting. This thing has all of it. And joining me this morning to talk about the Whitney Commons is Labyrinth consultant Fashion Wilson, and Whitney Benefits trustee Kim Love. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Now, Labyrinth consultant.
Oh, that's a fancy title.
That is a great title.
Yes, I would like to correct the pronunciation of my name. It's Fashawn.
Fashawn.
And most people call me Sean.
Sean, okay.
Yeah. And
how does one become a Labyrinth consultant?
Well, I got interested in...
self-appointed, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it's Sarah Summers' fault, who works for Whitney. I got interested in labyrinths when I had the experience of walking the labyrinth that's at the Episcopal Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. And it just blew me away. And I thought, we should have one of these here. And so I went on a campaign of writing different people and doing different things to see if we could get a labyrinth here in Sheridan. My husband and I worked with a group of teenagers from Holy Name Church to build one out at the Benedictine Monastery, and it was a rock one, and it was really very nice. We'd go out every year and weed it out and replace rocks, and unfortunately that's no longer available to the public because the monastery was sold privately. So the one in Whitney Commons, Kim and I connected. He was looking for a way to enhance the garden, and I was happy to talk to him, and he brought in a architectural landscape consultant, and we talked about how it could be done in that space, and it was built. Kim?
Well, yeah, it was back in the early aughts when this one first started getting started. I was on the board of Whitney on the board of Whitney Benefits, and Whitney had acquired the old brewery property there and was working on developing the park that now is Whitney Commons. And at the same time, Sean and I were serving on the Sheridan Public Arts Committee, and I forget how the initial conversation came about because I wasn't involved with Sean's efforts out at the monastery or any of the rest of the stuff, and very frankly hadn't paid much attention to labyrinths themselves. Anyway, we were on the Sheridan Public Arts Committee, and I don't remember exactly how the conversation came about, whether you just kind of mentioned it casually to me one day or
Probably.
whatever. Well,
I was in my promoting stage.
Well, there's some things that are such good ideas, you don't have to beat me over the head twice with them.
Right.
To say, hey, that sounded like a really good idea, And so I then took the idea back to Whitney and the consultant that was developing a park. Say, couldn't we put a labyrinth in the corner of the Dippy King component of the park there, and everyone seemed to be fine with that. It was not that big of a deal, in terms of having to make any kind of sacrifices or significant financial commitment or whatever. I mean, it did cost something, and so I brought it up there. It was well accepted, and then got incorporated into the plans for the park, and it's been there ever since.
Kim, for those of us who haven't seen this or experienced it, could you describe what this is made out of? How high are the walls? Could you?
Well, there aren't any really high walls. I mean, it's flat with the ground. Sean could probably be better, describe it. It's just, I'm not, very frankly, I'm not sure what material it is made out of. Is it just brick?
It's those pattern bricks that are used in other places at Whitney Commons. And to define the labyrinth, there are different colors. Some are red and some are black. and can't remember which shows the outline and which is a walking path. Labyrinths are found all over the world, and there are different designs, but the purpose always seems to be to connect it to something unknown, divine, the Great Spirit. Today, there is a general movement in the United States, or even in the world, to put labyrinths in public places for the purpose of meditation and stress relief. They are especially popular in hospital areas, and our hospital has a great space for one. I'm always eyeing it. It's a labyrinth is not a maze. It's one path to the center. There are no tricks or anything like that, or choices to make. You just need to follow the way to arrive at the center. And a labyrinth symbolizes many things. For some, it's a religious journey. The path can be a way to salvation. It's a symbolic pilgrimage to Jerusalem. That's the purpose of it in the churches in France, for instance. And walking the labyrinth reminds us we are all pilgrims journeying to the sacred center. And when you get into one and you're walking it, you kind of get into a meditative state. And you can walk in, and in walking, you're using your body and your mind, and then your spirit can enter into it. It's a tool for meditation and enlightenment, really. And kids just like to run the path, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You took away what I was going to ask Floyd if he knew the difference between a maze and a labyrinth.
And I had not. I'd never heard of that.
I think originally maybe they were a little bit confused, but the difference is in a labyrinth, you don't really have to think. You can meditate. You can lose yourself in thought because there is only one path to follow. Whereas in a maze, there are a lot of dead ends,
right?
That you may run into.
You got a puzzle to solve there.
It's kind of a puzzle thing. The labyrinth is not a puzzle.
I think that's fascinating. I don't think a lot of people knew that.
Yeah.
The difference between the two. I certainly didn't. When somebody talks about labyrinth, I think maze. There's something in there I have to solve. But the reflection aspect of this is what fascinates me about a labyrinth. Being able to walk this path. Sean, you've obviously walked a lot of labyrinths.
Everyone I come across, I walk.
And have you developed like a meditative state where you're able to get in there and really reflect on not just the earthbound subjects, but the eternal?
I can take a problem start at the beginning with a deep breath, and then just begin walking it, and kind of thinking about it or not thinking about it. And labyrinths that are built in the open spaces, trees, birds, fresh air, you can be surrounded by that as well as the path. And you walk into the center, and you can stay in the center for a while and meditate, pray. And then when you walk out, I often find the answer I was looking for to a problem that I had. So it's really a great meditation tool.
And I would have never thought of that. I was the little kid. I was always just running the path. Kim,
that's okay. As a little kid, you can run the path. Even as an adult, if you want to run the path,
run the path. Yeah,
you can use it any way you see fit.
Now, Kim, have you walked this?
Yes.
How do you use it?
I can't really say that. I have quite the dedication that Sean has had to it. Mine was more a matter of helping to build Whitney Commons into the quality park that it really is, and I'm, continually amazed as I travel around. This isn't Labyrinth specific, but what a tremendous asset, I believe, I'm biased, of course, that Whitney Commons is. You go to a lot of places, and there are very few, parks that cities or towns have that are as nice as Whitney Commons is, that's located so close to the center of city, and of course is immaculately maintained. And I don't think you can find many parks, many places that are as well maintained as that is. So I think it's just a tremendous asset that maybe it's around for a long period of time, so you kind of get used to it and kind of take it for granted a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think if people will travel around almost any place and look at the different kinds of parks that various cities and towns have, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find one that's as nice as Whitney Commons is. And this was just one component, of the park. There are many facets to the park.
Like the water park that is busy throughout the entire summer season.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the entire year. I said, no. The water feature wasn't too busy last week.
Yeah, it's going to be a little sparse out there during the winter. But my wife and I, when we learned about Whitney, she works here in town as well, and we both started taking lunch out there together. And we go and sit in the grass, and I mean, it's beautiful, and as you said, it is so well maintained. The dedicated staff out there, you don't find garbage on the ground. You don't see piles of anything outside of grass and maybe a project that they've got, just trying to improve the area, as well as all the flowers and the sitting areas that have basically been designed for folks to take their lunch.
It's evolved over the years where they've tried to make gradual improvements to it and tweak things here and there. But one of the if you look at the Mr. Whitney's will, which was just an amazing document that he created here over 100 years ago, one of the things that he had in there, I believe, was referred to as a community center. And to my way of thinking, Whitney Commons is a wonderful fulfillment of his desire to have some of his funds go to a community center.
Absolutely, and I think he would be very proud to walk that. And I mean,
I have no doubt about that.
To include things like a labyrinth, the water park, and some other amenities here. Could you tell me about the Whitney Commons Dorothy King Reflective Garden? What is this?
Can
go
I
ahead.
say something?
Absolutely.
I think one of the best things about that garden is that it has a botanical garden nature to it. A lot of different kind of plants, which are all identified. And you don't have to walk the labyrinth when you're in there. You can just enjoy the flowers in the garden.
And it also causes reflection. I mean, I don't know how often or how many opportunities people have to go to a flower garden. But to go and sit in an area like that can also be very reflective and spiritual.
Yes. Agreed. There are a lot of books about labyrinths. Kim and I both brought the same book this morning.
Must be a good book, huh?
And this one, it says mazes on it, but they're really types of labyrinths around the world.
Need to get a hold of that author and explain the difference between a maze and labyrinth.
Exactly.
Someone needs a further education.
There's a group called the Worldwide Labyrinth Project. You can go on the web and you can find all kinds of information about it, and you can find locations for where there are labyrinths around the United States. I have a whole list of them, and it's very long. There's a couple of other labyrinths in Wyoming that I'm aware of. One is at some dude ranch, and it's made out of rocks, just rocks placed in the design. And I believe Casper has one.
Now, labyrinth, as far as Western culture is concerned, was this a Greek idea originally?
I think the original one, it goes back 2,500 years BC.
Yeah.
That's 4,500 years ago.
Yeah.
The earliest one that was discovered. And, it's had a history, but I believe you find, I'm not sure what the connections are, but you find them, I believe, in India. I think there's some in Central or South America. Now, how they migrated from Greece to, or whether it was just a good idea that
one of those universal ideas,
universal idea that popped up in different places. But so it's had an interesting evolution over the last almost 5 millennia.
And I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's kind of like the idea of the dragon, something that cultures around the world who never had contact with each other have got one idea about one subject. And so I think that really speaks to what a labyrinth can offer someone in a spiritual sense. Before the dawn of science, of course, everything was explained through spiritual connection to the universe. And labyrinths may be that, for lack of a better term, portal to the spiritual. As you were saying, Shauna, being able to walk the labyrinth, reach that center, in a way is reaching the center of yourself and the universe itself. Now, can you tell me a little bit, Kim, about the statues out there at Whitney Commons as well? I see quite a few of those. They're absolutely beautiful. I've only really stopped and looked at the statue of Whitney himself, but there are others.
Well, I mean, over the years, and again, Sean and I used to serve. I'm still on the Public Arts Committee, and Sean was on it for well over a decade and was chair at one point of the Public Arts Committee.
I used to say I was the manager of the project.
Oh, whatever you want to. She can describe herself however she'd like to describe it, and far be it for me to disagree. But as we developed the program, we suggested different opportunities to, incorporate some sculptures into the sculpture program. Now, the ones in Whitney Commons, those are all owned by, those are not city sculptures, but they're owned by Whitney Benefits themselves. And so as they've seen opportunities, I know that the one that you made reference to, which was of Mr. Whitney sitting on the bench there, that came from a sculptor. I think our late former chair, Tom Kennison, was driving on the interstate, and I think he saw the sculptor, Felix Veliz, I think is the guy's name is, driving down the road with a sculpture on the back of his truck or on a trailer or something like that, and got his name and contacted him, and then they commissioned that sculpture. And then there were other ones that were around, and such as the Mike Thomas one that we added to the there at Whitney Commons. And
that's the horse and rider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so over the years, as opportunities have come up, there's one that would be on the west side of the park over there, just south of the YMCA on the way to Kendrick Park there. Balancing Boys was one, and that was submitted to our on loan program, and we were looking for a place to put it because that one is such that it doesn't really, it's big enough and that it wouldn't really fit in our downtown area it's a great sculpture, but it fits over there perfectly. So we put it there, and after it had been there for a year, Whitney said, we kind of like that. So
they decided to keep it.
Added that to the thing. So that's...
Well, Kim, Shauna, I greatly appreciate you guys taking some time coming in here and talking to me about labyrinths. I learned something today. Thank you so much for that. The difference between a labyrinth and a maze.
Glad to come.
And I hope both of you have a great new year.
Hey, you too.
You've been listening to Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
First Federal Bank and Trust is excited to announce the First Federal Community Commitment Program.
Each week for 52 weeks starting in January, First Federal will select a Sheridan County nonprofit who will receive $1,000 in cash, plus Sheridan Media will match that with a marketing budget.
You can find an entry form at any First Federal Bank location or online at efirstfederal.bank. If you've received a donation from First Federal in the last 3 years, you're automatically entered into the drawing.
Community Commitment, presented by
First Federal Bank and Trust
and Sheridan Media.
Member FDIC.
Is your home falling down, dilapidated, dingy, or downright disgusting? Are you wanting to sell but know that no realtor in their right mind would even come and take a look at your home? They would drive by and say goodbye, love. YO Renovation is here now. Get a hold of Devon and he'll come out, take a look, and make you an offer. Quickly, confidentially, and with no judgment. YORenovation.com. We buy crappy and make homes happy.
Remember when your mom used to say, "Don't break your arm, patting yourself on the back"? Well, if you ignored her and broke your arm, then the Health Nut is the place for you to get all healthy again. Every inch of the Health Nut can make you feel better about yourself. The soup, sandwich, and deli bar, and smoothie so good you'll